the show. And I'm going to go ahead and post that we are live on Facebook. So we got some friends. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Morning Healthy You. Kim Martin here. Hopefully you're able to join us live this morning. We come at you live every Wednesday morning on Facebook from Peoria Live. And we've been doing that now for a couple of months. And my goal is to help educate and inform you in every way that we possibly can on how to make it easier in living a healthy lifestyle. Hands down, it is one of the hardest things to do based on statistics, and it is the number one goal for the average person is to be healthy. And so that's what Healthy You is all about. It's about you. It's about bringing awesome guests that can help us and just sharing information. So today is no different. I am so excited to have the Mr. Matt Coates here with us.
Yes, good morning.
At our Healthy You podcast. And I've just recently met you, Matt, because you are going to have the honors of being one of our speakers at our half-day
I'm excited.
motivational conference happening this Saturday at Second Chance Church. And so we are just thrilled to do that. And one of the things that I talk about often, and you hear me talk about often, is that you can have the best weight loss program around. You can exercise all the time, but if you don't have it right in the
Upstairs,
mind,
that's so true.
It just isn't going to work out for you. Living a healthy lifestyle, I believe, starts here.
It does.
It starts in the mind.
It does.
And so that's why I thought you would be a perfect guest. You're a counselor.
I am.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you became a life coach and speaker and counselor. And give us a little bit of background on you.
Sure. Well, it comes really from personal failure, actually. And it was the mindset that I had back in high school. And it was a mindset that I was going through the motions. I wasn't really giving my all to things that I was doing, but I also wasn't setting the right goals. And so because of that, that led to this big failure at the end of my high school career. And that's where I started looking at, okay, well, what is my potential? Where am I going? How do I get to reach some of my goals and dreams, and then what are they?
Right.
And so that's where I started. It really started from failure after high school. And then, like you just said, it starts with a mindset. And so I had to change my mindset first. And then I started setting goals, and then I started breaking down how to meet those goals.
And you actually became a college basketball player.
I did.
I did. From failure in high school to college basketball player at ISU?
Absolutely.
So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Well, because my high school basketball career didn't really go how I wanted it to go. And really because I didn't put in the work to do well, but also not just work on the basketball court, but academically, my mindset was just going through the motions. And so when college coaches would look at me for recruiting back then, they saw that I was lazy because my academic grades were, well, he's getting C's, he's really not working hard enough he's lazy. And so that really prohibited a lot of college recruiters from looking at me. And so that being devastated from that. Fast forward, I went to Illinois Central College and got my associate's degree. I didn't play basketball, but when I enrolled at Illinois State University after transferring, I just tried out for the team. And I wasn't trying out to be a player. I was just trying out to just be a practice player at the time.
Right.
And that is
you just love playing basketball and staying in shape.
Yeah, I wanted to stay in shape, and I just wanted to be a practice player. And I became a practice player for about 2 weeks. And after about 2 weeks, the coach asked me to be a part of the team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I love is that you had the ability. Mm-hmm. In high school,
right.
You could have graduated star of the high school basketball team.
Absolutely.
You could have went right into probably playing at a college.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have the mindset. You were not putting forth your best effort.
Wasn't putting forth,
Does that ever happen to you guys? I know it does to me, right? Yeah. It's so hard, Matt, to give day in and day out 100%. And it's really, it's what it takes. So how did how did you start to shift that mindset? Some of the listeners I know right now are probably thinking, that sounds great, but, how did that mind shift? How did you start to do that?
Sure. Excuse me, I developed it. I had to learn from other people who were already doing some of those things. And so when I started at ISU and I was a practice player, I just kind of observed my coaches, their work ethic, and also my teammates, their work ethic. But not only them, but other students that I had made friends with that were just doing great in school academically. They were getting high honor rolls. They were graduating with honors. And so I made friends with a lot of people that were already successful. And I just learned a successful model that works. And I started looking at, okay, well, these are some of the habits that are allowing these people to be successful and reach their peak potential. And that's what I started adding some of those characteristics and those habits to myself.
And so you talk about those 7 effective habits.
Yes.
And you're going to be talking about that at our conference, and we're going to dive into some of that today. So I love that story. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Michael Jordan story.
Sure,
how he didn't make his high school team.
Sure.
And then from there, he could have just given up.
He could have went a completely different way.
He could have went a completely different way. He could have said, they don't think I'm good enough. Got the arrogant, mindset, right? And instead, he humbled himself and started practicing every single day.
Yeah.
I love him. I read about it all the time. I have his quotes up. I have one of his quotes I posted on my page a lot. And he said every time he would get tired of practicing, he would close his eyes and see his name on that roster, or see that his name wasn't on that roster, or envision that roster without his name on it.
Absolutely.
And it made him keep practicing.
It is. It's one of my favorite stories.
Look at it. I'm like, I love that. And you can do it too. So listen, we're going to dive into those 7 habits, and I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper if you're watching. And get ready to write some of these down. You don't want to miss this. And if you want to hear Matt live, you can go to I'veDecided.org and get registered for the half-day motivational conference that's happening this Saturday. Go ahead and tag some friends, invite them to watch this show. Share it on your Facebook page. If you would love to, we'd love to have you help us out to spread the word. Get the word out about Matt and what he's doing in his career and your personal coaching.
Yes.
But you also, just real quick, your background, you're a counselor.
Yes, I am.
And you actually work for the children's home.
I do.
And so that's what you've got these classes, obviously behavior management classes under your belt. So that's had to help a little bit too.
Yes. At Children's Home, I work with a population of kids that are from age 11 to 17. And we work on setting goals and work on a lot of these habits that I've applied to myself, and how a lot of these kids can meet their goals while they're in their teenage years.
How lucky they are to have you there.
Oh, it's awesome. I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Oh, that is so cool. I love it.
I enjoy it so much.
I love it. Okay, so what's the first habit? Those 7 habits that you started to apply. What are they? What's that first one?
The first one is you have to know where you're going. And otherwise, you do what's called, you're becoming an aimless drifter. And that's what I was in high school. My goal was to just have a great time. And I did. I had a blast, met a lot of people, had a lot of friends. But I wasn't setting academic goals. I wasn't setting other goals that were going to lead to a better future. That wasn't what I was setting. And so the first thing you do is you set the goal. You set the target, where are you going, and then make it very, very clear. You want to write that goal down, but make it very clear of where you're going, what does it look like. Vision is huge for me.
Envision, it's the E in decide.
Yes, it is.
Envision your future self.
Yes.
The choices you make today are going to determine where you are tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's cliche, I know.
But it's so true.
Isn't it?
It's so true.
We know it. These are things that we know to be true. But applying it becomes the difficult part. So you have to envision that future self. You have to know the choices you are making today.
Yes.
And you have to know where you're going.
You have to know
what do you want?
What do you want?
What is it that you want to do? So you want to live a healthy lifestyle? You need to envision yourself down the road. But what about like envisioning what happens if they're not living a healthy lifestyle? Did you ever, for me, when I've tried to achieve goals and been successful, I would envision what happened if I wasn't successful.
Absolutely. And that fear is a big motivation for a lot of people. I know for a lot of people that I've worked with, fear of just failing, or fear of the unknown of what could happen if they don't, maximize, or if they're not consistent. That's a huge motivating force that I think people can definitely tap into when they're setting goals, but also just being consistent, and trying to be consistent.
Yeah. So know where you're going.
Know where you're going.
Have your goal in mind. And envision it.
Right.
Think about it all the time. And the choices that you make
Absolutely
need to move you in that direction.
I always say your choices should align with that goal. Every choice. So when you set the goal, now you're kind of starting to backtrack of that, and that gets into number 2. And so you set the goal, you make it very clear, you have a vision of what you want. Now, number 2 is the success model. Now that you know where you're going, how do you get there?
Okay.
And that is where now you're just like a GPS system that you use for your car or anything else. You're going to map out what roads and to take to get to where you're trying to get to.
Right.
And that is a huge component of learning from someone who has already been successful.
Who you're hanging around with.
Who you're hanging around with.
Yeah.
But using a model that works. There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
But using a model that works and studying different models. So for me, when I was becoming a life coach, when I wanted to become a motivational speaker, who did I study? I studied motivational speakers.
Yes.
I studied other life coaches that were successful.
Right.
And how they came to be where they are, from where they started to where they are, but also their habits to get on how they got to where they are.
Yes.
And so number 2 is studying and learning the success model, but then and so now we're getting the application. You wrote the goal down, but now you have to break down how you're going to get there from say if your goal is a year out, you're going to break down what you're going to do each month. Then you're going to break down what you're doing each week, and then it breaks down to what you do each day.
And you focus on those little goals along the way. What's the one thing you can change?
Absolutely.
So if you need to start exercising, right, then and exercise is your goal,
Yes.
then you can write that down. Okay, so exercise is my goal.
Right.
Now you need to find someone who's exercising
Yes.
efficiently, who you've
Absolutely.
seen results from what they're
Absolutely.
doing. It could be, everybody thinks that there's the perfect exercise.
It is. That's true.
And it's not.
Right. That's so
There's
true.
not. It's what do you like to do?
Absolutely.
You can do all kinds of things. You need strength training, but you can get strength training from many various areas.
Absolutely.
You need cardio. You can do that in many ways.
That's true.
Find something you like.
Yeah.
Find one of your friends who is successful and say, "Hey, can I work out with you?
Absolutely.
Can I follow you around and kind of see what you're doing?"
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly, I call it accountability.
It's accountability.
Yeah.
It's accountability.
My friend Christy calls them battle buddies,
Uh-huh.
which I love that.
That's
I'm like,
perfect.
I want to steal her
Yeah,
idea
you're
because
going-
I'm like, that's like the best, a battle buddy.
You're
Because it is
going
a
into battle with someone, but they're also helping keep you accountable, and that's part of the success model. But also writing that goal down is you're also developing a support system
Yes.
of maybe 1 or 2 people that if you start to slack off or you start not to be consistent, that person's going to keep you accountable.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's hard to keep ourselves accountable, especially
You're
when it comes to
telling me.
eating. I love to eat
Yeah.
all the things that are sugary and things that are bad for
Right.
you. But I always have my wife or my friends that are saying, "Well, wasn't your goal to
Yeah.
lose a couple pounds?"
Yeah.
Or and
You ain't going to keep looking like that if you
yeah,
eat too much
you're
sugar.
not. And so that's the thing is
Right.
having people accountability, but then also having a buddy that can keep holding you accountable as well as
Yes.
holding yourself accountable.
Whether it's accountability buddy,
Uh-huh.
a battle buddy, just a friend, whatever, whatever you want to call them. But
Yeah.
you're saying that's the second thing is apply some success to your
Absolutely.
life. And that comes from seeing others and
Absolutely.
kind of, like you said, it's just not about reinventing the wheel. You don't need to reinvent the
No
wheel.
need to.
There's all these things out there available.
There are, and then
I
it's
love
just
that.
and then it's just finding what works for you.
Yeah.
What works for someone else. And I think what's really important is we're studying models that work, but it's really important not to compare where you are to where someone else is further down the line.
Oh, I say
It's
that all the time. It's one of
so
the last
easy.
things I always say when I'm speaking about the DECIDE method. I tell everybody, do not compare.
Right.
Comparing steals your joy.
It absolutely does.
Because
it absolutely does.
what somebody else is doing is their responsibility for
Right.
them, and what you're doing is your responsibility. And we
Absolutely.
all have a different mission.
Absolutely.
All of us have
Yeah.
a different mission. I love it. There's a Bible verse where Jesus is having a conversation with Peter, and Peter says, "Well, why are basically he's saying, why are they getting to do that? What why can't I?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And Jesus basically shut him up, and he said, "What is it any concern of yours?"
Absolutely.
And so I believe
Absolutely.
Jesus was saying that we have our own mission. Peter had his own mission.
Right,
You
right.
have your own mission.
Absolutely.
I have my own mission. You have your own mission.
Absolutely.
It's not about what somebody else is doing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to focus on what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you know, in comparison, you know, it's if you're learning from someone and how they got somewhere, that's great. But if your comparison can also lead to doubt, it can lead to self-doubt.
Oh, yes.
And so if you're starting to compare too much in ways that's not beneficial, or if you're not learning, it's just comparing and it's making you self-doubt.
Right.
That's where it can be really negative.
Right.
It can really hold you back.
That is a very good point, is that accountability buddy is not for you to compare.
Right, right.
It's to give you some support and
So
motivation.
support, motivation.
So what's
Absolutely.
the third thing that
The third thing, well, we set the goal, and now we broke down how we're getting there.
Yeah.
From the months to the weeks. Now we're breaking down what you do each day.
Okay.
And that's called make each day your masterpiece. And that's
make each day your masterpiece.
I got that from
I love it.
the legendary coach John Wooden from
Yes.
UCLA. He
Okay.
won like 10 national championships.
Oh, that's awesome.
Back in the day, but I read a few of his books, and his main focus was how you live your day it will tell me how successful you will be. And so it's breaking down to what do you do each day, how are you starting your day, but also how are you following through on that day. And that is the main part of make each day your masterpiece, is waking up with a mantra or something that you can use to get your day going.
Okay.
And my wife would say it's Starbucks or coffee. I tend to agree.
I wake up running. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I do.
Absolutely.
It's like that having that frog on your shoulder. I hate to say it's the worst part of my day, because
Yeah, yeah.
I love my running buddies.
Absolutely.
And I love how I feel after I run.
Uh-huh.
And some runs are better than others.
Sure,
but
sure.
most of the time, that's the one thing that I start my day. I don't really want to do it, but it's the thing that makes me feel the best and
Absolutely.
sets my standard for the day.
Absolutely. And so, you know, piggybacking on that, you start your day with, for me, it's a mantra, it's a quote. And I say, you know, the same quote every morning. And then it goes to, I have a to-do list of what I'm going to do that day. And my goal is not to think so far in the future, but knowing if I hit my points and hit my marks for today, I'm setting myself up to reach that goal that I set for a year from now.
Yeah.
And so that goes with weight loss, that goes with eating healthy, that goes with working out, or any goal that you have, it's broken down into what you're doing daily.
Wouldn't you say, and I hope you're listening to this, when it comes to changing the behaviors in eating, there are always things that we can change.
Absolutely.
You can,
Always.
you don't have to go, I'm going to change my whole diet. I'm going to just give up all of this. Sometimes for some people, I understand that can work out.
Sure.
But the reality is there might be some exceptions to the rule, but the reality is that generally doesn't work out for most people.
True,
It's
true,
the statistics of someone going to an extreme is like less than 2% being successful 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
They consider long term 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
So usually those extreme changes and methods last about a couple of years
Sure.
at best, and then we
Absolutely.
tend to go back to our old behaviors because it's hard to maintain
It is.
those extremes. So
Absolutely.
what's the one thing that you could change? You know, maybe I used to put sugar in. Okay, this is a good one because I'm a Southern girl. I used to drink sweet tea. Oh my goodness. I love my sweet tea, right?
yeah.
And so that was the one thing that I know was contributing to my not being as healthy as I could be.
Sure.
So I could make that one goal and say, you know what, I'm not going to drink sweet tea anymore.
Absolutely.
I'm going to start changing that habit.
Absolutely.
And what's the one thing? I think it's like that simple.
What's
We
that
start
one thing?
looking at that big picture and we
Yeah.
get overwhelmed.
And it doesn't always have to be a drastic change. It could be one small thing. I know for me, when I had an issue with being healthy. Anyone that's ever known me, I've been the picky eater. Didn't like fruits, didn't like vegetables.
You sound like somebody I know. Michelle, are you watching?
love carbs.
Right.
Those are my favorite things. And so for me, it was, okay, well, what can I cut out first? What's one thing I can cut out to start being healthier today? For me, it was soda. It was
yeah.
soda. And I love Sprite. I love all those, sodas that really aren't that great for you. They taste great, but they're not that great. So for me, I cut out soda, and that was one thing. That's where I started. And,
So the one thing, what is the one thing that could start to change you in living a healthier lifestyle? You know, I always believe, and I believe this so much, if you start practicing discipline in one area of your life, it will start to filter.
it'll start to filter over.
Yeah, so
It
if
will.
you start
It
practicing
will.
discipline, giving up that one vice that may not be so good for you, it will start to filter over
It will.
into other
It
areas.
absolutely will.
Awesome. I love
Absolutely.
that. So daily, and that's called, you call it mastering?
Make each day your masterpiece.
Make each day your masterpiece.
Absolutely, because
that's a great quote.
It is.
We
And
might have to steal that one
You
for
can
it. Put
use
it up.
it.
We're going to use
You
it.
can use
Matt
it.
Coates, make each day your masterpiece.
make each day your
I love
masterpiece,
it.
and you're setting a to-do list, and you're following through and making sure you're getting. There's a big satisfaction in checking things off that you've done
Oh,
today.
yeah, check.
It really is. And so for me, I start my day with a mantra and then a to-do list, and then throughout the day I just mark them off, and that's keeping me to my goal each time.
Okay, that's great advice.
Absolutely.
What else?
Sure.
What else you got for us?
So now going off from that, now you know what you're doing each day, but what's really, really important is the effort you're putting in while you're doing these things each day. And so you could be, when I was in high school, I would go to practice and I'd be, doing a lot of things, but I would be going through the motions. It wasn't giving my best effort at it. And so that's what comes into for number 4 is you're going from ordinary to extraordinary.
Okay.
And how to do that is you're just adding extra to everything you do. And you're adding extra, you're going the extra mile, you're going a little further each day. And so when it comes to, say I cut out soda, well really I cut soda back maybe about 2 or 3 times a year. And so I drink it on the Super Bowl, things like that.
You look forward to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna have some soda.
I look forward because every year, my friends know I'm gonna have a soda, for Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But that's where I started. But I started. Then it just, like you said, it leads over. That discipline leads over into other areas of your life, and that's what it started doing. Every day or each week, I would add something more. I would do something a little bit better. I would change a certain meal, and then by going the extra, you're going from where you are to where you want to be. Really, almost without knowing it.
And you're not, I love that because extraordinary kind of has that
it has,
same vibe.
It does.
So you're saying just do a little extra.
A little extra.
Push yourself.
Push yourself.
Statistically, we all can do 40% more than we think you can.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I've been so blessed to have become real familiar in the special needs industry.
Yes.
And world in our school. I've decided to support PUP, people with unlimited potential. Those are young people are young adults with special needs. Even all of them, everybody, all of us, every human being can do 40% more than we think we can.
Absolutely.
Based on research. That's what they say.
Absolutely.
I believe it. I've seen it happen. We have a guy speaking this Saturday, Stephen Corey, who was born with cerebral palsy.
Absolutely.
Matt, wait till you see.
He's actually a great friend of mine.
You know, yes.
I know.
He went to ISU.
Yeah, well, you know what? We went to Lindbergh together. Middle school. We were great friends in middle school and through high school, and we definitely kept in touch. But Steve Corey is one of my closest friends, and I did not know he was speaking.
I had no idea.
I did not know until
That's amazing.
Yeah, when we started talking, and I looked at the website and realized he was our speaker, and I'm like, wow, that's perfect. He's one of what he's overcome any adversity that he's ever had. He's gone above and beyond. He's
done the extra.
He's always done extra.
He's a perfect example.
And he's always done what he's wanted to do.
Someone who has done that extra.
Yes,
So from what do you call it, to extraordinary, from
ordinary to extraordinary.
Ordinary to extraordinary.
Absolutely.
Now he wouldn't agree. He doesn't think it's a big deal, but I'm like, seriously,
It is.
It is a big deal. So
and he's always been a huge inspiration.
Yeah. No wonder you've done so well. You've had good motivation.
I got friends like Stevie. Yeah, I'm excited to see him.
You are hanging around some awesome people. So from ordinary to extraordinary, and you can do it just by taking those simple measures and going the extra mile.
Absolutely.
One of my weekly word for winners was generous. And I started thinking about that. And I've been really trying to apply it. Every decision, when something comes up and that first thing that pops in my head is like, I don't have the money to do that. Or, I don't have time. I go, be generous.
Absolutely.
It's the same kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love
That's
it.
fantastic. Okay.
What's the next step? I'm loving this.
So once you go from ordinary to extraordinary,
Yeah.
now you're getting into the things that could hold you back. And these are some of the areas where a lot of people fail. And so
the
we're going.
obstacles.
So now we're going to control our attention, and that's
Okay.
so focus on where you were. Anthony Robbins has a great quote: "Where focus goes, energy flows."
Oh, yeah.
And so, in the social media world and things now, with our attention spans, it's really easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get distracted, and if we get too distracted, that can take you off the path of your goal.
And very passionate people, and you're probably a very passionate person. I'm a very passionate person, and you're listening. Maybe you're a very passionate person. If we see some of these posts that we get us fired up, we
Sure,
can spend a
sure.
lot of time
Oh my
focusing
gosh.
on things
So true.
that we can't change.
can't
You
change.
got to focus on what you can change.
Focus on what you can change.
So you're saying hone in.
Hone in and make sure you're controlling your attention to where, and let me give you an example. So if you have a to-do list of what you're trying to get done for that day, there are probably going to be things that come up that day that are unexpected. It could be with a family, it could be at work, it could be a lot of different things. And you have to be able to still be flexible enough to be able to focus and go back to, okay, well, what did I not finish today? Sometimes you can't get everything done, but you still have to have the focus of, okay, I need to get myself back on track, or I'm doing things, or I'm doing that isn't going to be beneficial to where I'm trying to go.
Right.
And so it's really just making sure that you're refocusing yourself when you catch yourself. Well, here's another example. It's been times where when I was in school, I was supposed to be doing homework or studying for a test, right? And I got on Facebook, and 4 hours went by.
Stinking Facebook.
I love it. It really is. It's so much fun. It's an awesome way to communicate.
It is. I love it. There's so many good things.
And you
about
just
it.
start scrolling, and you start liking, and it makes it really, you get distracted.
You
but
just
now,
get honed in.
but now the evening's over, and none of the things on my list for that evening got done.
Right.
And so that's how easy it can be.
Wow.
And without knowing it, well, I definitely entertained myself being on social media, but I didn't bring myself closer to my goal.
Yeah, and you also feel like you're hanging out with your friends.
Absolutely.
So you feel like
Absolutely.
you are doing something productive,
Uh-huh.
but really that might not
Absolutely.
be the case.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's necessary. And like we said, social media is awesome when used
It is.
appropriately.
Absolutely. It
And
is.
Maybe aligning time for it.
Absolutely.
Just don't just do
Absolutely.
it. Have those times
Absolutely.
set. That's what I'm trying to
And
do.
have the time
set.
set.
Time set to do it, and then the rest of
Yes.
the day you don't do it.
And that's controlling your attention.
Controlling your attention.
When you set the time where, from this hour to this hour, I'm just going to scroll. I'm going to be on social media. I'm going to, look at people's photos but from this hour to this hour, I'm doing this only.
Right.
And by controlling your focus, you're controlling your destiny.
So good. We got time for maybe one more.
Absolutely.
You'll have to come to the conference on Saturday and meet Matt in person.
Yes, yes.
I hope that you'll do that. Get started on your dreams. What do you want to do? I know, most of the people watching this show are very passionate about living a healthy lifestyle. That's why you're watching, probably. You're learning and getting tips. But it does start in your mind.
It does.
And
It
it
does.
starts with who you're hanging around with. And it starts with being with positive people.
It does.
So want to just encourage you to register for that conference. Go to I'veDecided.org to do that. You don't want to miss Matt. And, of course, we were talking about Steve Corey.
Absolutely.
He's going to be great, too. All right, one more. We got a minute here.
One more. And I guess the second to last one, the 6th point, is never stop moving forward. There are going to be those times when you do fall off the wagon and you fail, or you're not disciplined, or you're not consistent. What's really important is what you do right after that. And so it's okay to fail sometimes. It's okay to, have that cheat meal you weren't supposed to have, so long as it doesn't become a cheat week or things that it continues to spiral downward.
Right.
Make sure that the next thing you do is you're focusing on what's the next best step to get back on my goal.
Disappointment's not disaster.
Absolutely.
So forgive yourself and keep moving
Forgive
forward.
yourself, but never stop moving forward. Even if you fail, even if you slip up, that's part of success.
I've heard it.
It's learning from where you failed or where you've slipped up, and making sure that you do the next best thing to keep getting to where you're trying to go.
I've heard it put like this: fail forward.
Fail forward.
Fail forward. Awesome. Matt, thank you so
Thanks
much
for having
I
me.
told you how fast this half hour is going to go.
It flies by. It
Hey,
flies by.
be sure to share this with your friends if you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be with you again next Wednesday. That was awesome.
Perfect.
That's
PeoriaLife.com